Hello friends. So, in the previous class we introduced the concept of tool of measurement in terms of or techniques of measurement in terms of the objective test and scales. So, now in the objective test and scales and particularly in scale. So, there are two broad type of scale available. One is called rating scale, another is called ranking scale. So, in this particular class we are going to discuss about the rating scale. So, in particularly we will talk about various types of rating scale. So, to remind you what rating scale is. So, a rating scale is defined as a technique through which the observer or the rater categorize object, events, person, individual on a continuum that is represented by a number of continuous numerals. Okay. So, to simplify it, what rating scale is? That rating scale it is basically it provide or it try to estimate a particular variable. Okay. So, those variables are being rated by on a number of items. So, these items are the number of stimuli, these stimuli are the items, statement, question like that. And these stimuli or these particular questions or statements are presented in front of any respondent. Okay. And what the respondent need to do? Okay. So, these particular statements they are presented before the respondent for their response on a scale of continuous numbers, means there are a continuum. So, this continuum is generally comprised of a number of or a series of continuous numbers. Okay. And why these numbers? So, these numbers are designed to measure the magnitude or intensity of the expression. So, in short, okay. So, what rating scale is? Rating scale is basically comprised of a number of statements, number of questions, okay, or these statements are presented before the respondent and the respondent need to express the magnitude of agreement or the magnitude of that or intensity of their response based on a continuum. So, that continuum is generally is of continuous numbers. Okay. So, this and these particular continuous numbers they actually measure the intensity of the response. Okay. In toto, that is the rating scale. Okay. So, now depending on the purpose of the study, depending on the educational qualification of the respondent, okay, and so this particular continuum or the series of continuous numbers, okay, which this continuum represent, that may be 2 point, 3 point, 4 point, 5 points, means they may be either odd or even point. Again in the odd and even point also it may be 2 point, okay, just like yes and no, or it may be 3 point, or it may be 5 point, 6 point, and up to 12 point scale example are available in the research literature. Now, coming to the different type of the rating scale. Okay. So, Guilford he categorized the rating scale into 6 broad categories. These categories are based on the continuum which are there against the each of the questions. Okay. So, there are different combination of the question, means this particular statements or question can be used in the different combination, and another aspect is there that the continuum which is provided with each of the statement or question that may be different. So, primarily based on the type of continuum used in with this particular stimuli or the statement. Okay. So, Guilford classified the rating scale into 6 broad categories. Okay. So, we will one by one we will look into what are these categories or what these categories are. So, the first type of rating scale is the numerical rating scale. Okay. So, numerical rating scale is one of the easiest to construct and also to apply, okay, to measure the objects or events that is being rated. Okay. So, in case of the numerical rating scale, okay, the observer or the rater, that is they are generally supplied with a sequence of numbers, okay, and these numbers are generally well defined, okay, and the task of the observer is to rate the object on these numbers on the sequence on this sequence of the number on the basis of his or her impression about the object being measured. Instead of providing the numericals, okay, sometimes only description are provided. Okay. And the researcher know about that what should be the numerals that need to be applied to this particular description. Okay. So, just if you take the example, okay. So, maybe you are trying to develop a particular scale or that was supposed to measure the maybe the attitude of the researcher or attitude of the academician towards the open access. Okay. So, you are measuring the psychological construct, that is the attitude, and what is the this object against which this attitude is formed, that is the open access. So, as a student of the social science or as a student of the masters or the PhD, okay, you already know, okay, that what open access is. Okay. But for the others, open access means it is a type of the publication system or it is a policy of the publication, okay, where the researcher mostly, okay, so where all the reader they can access the content of a particular research, okay, or content of a particular article that is written by a researcher, they free of cost. And for that, okay, so generally the researcher used to pay for their publication. Okay, means if I want to publish a research paper, I have to pay certain open access fees, so that the others can read my paper. Okay. So, maybe you are trying to design a rating scale that may be measuring those attitude towards the open access. Okay. So, for that you need to develop a number of questions that may be positive or number of statements, okay, that may be positive or negative. Okay. So, one of the statement may be open access improve the visibility of my research. Okay. So, against which, okay, we generally provide a numerical rating scale starting from the 5 to 1. So, here 5 represent the strongest agreement and 1 represent the least agreement. Okay. Here as I already mentioned here, okay, maybe 5 is the strongly agree, followed by 4 which is somewhat agree but less than the 5, okay, 3 may be indifferent, okay, 2 disagree and 1 2 that is strongly disagree. Okay. Similar statement if you take that the open access is most ethical, okay, so to make the others the aware of my research work. Okay. So, against which also you can measure the intensity of the expression, okay, or it may be an negative statement. Okay. Like negative statement means I pay open access fees, okay, because it is not possible to publish high impact factor without paying it, okay, or I pay open access fees because it is possible to publish in the high impact factor journal by paying it. Okay. So, somehow in the background of this particular statement there is a negative connotation or negative feelings is there. Okay. So, here also, okay, the category may be provided with strongly agree, agree, disagree or neutralize, disagree or strongly disagree. But in case of the negative statement, we generally change the sequence of the numerals. In case of the positive statement in a particular numerical scale, the strongly agree response is rated with the highest number. In case of the negative statement, the opposite side, that means the most negative response, here it is the strongly disagree, that is rated with the highest number. Okay. So, that is the only difference, otherwise, so numbers are assigned in a such a way to the numerical scale. So, again it is also the example of the numerical continuum, okay, like here for the measuring the statement like academic detailing is a useful form of education that align providers prescribing behavior with the evidence based practice. Okay. So, that is again this particular statement can be measured with a 5-point scale. Okay. So, now this it is in common practices to design this 5-point, 7-point scale starting from that highest agreement behavior to the lowest agreement disagreement behavior, and depending on the purpose of the study there may be a neutral point or not neutral point, and numbers are assigned like from the highest to the lowest, okay, in case of the positive statement, and from the lowest to the highest in case of the negative statement. Okay. So, but there are certain numerical scales can be assigned with a particular 0 point also, where this neutral position lied in the one side of the scale, okay, and in the other side, okay, so there may be starting from the mild behavior to the extreme behavior, okay, that is also possible. Okay. Here again it is one of the example of that how this particular continuum in case of the numerical scale is being presented. Okay. So, usually when this numerical type of items are included in the questionnaire, okay, so it is it is a general convention that or general principle that the researcher used to point out the meaning of this particular continuum at the starting point of the questionnaire or the interview schedule or starting point of this particular statement, okay, that what this particular point means. Okay. And generally with each of the statement a blank space is provided where the rater they generally indicate the numbers. Okay. So, it is not always required that to do it in the such a way. Okay. So, instead of that, for each of the question against the each of the questions this numerical anchor can also be provided, okay, where the rater can simply tick that particular continuum and record their response. So, as I already told, it is not always required that you use the numerals starting from the 1 to the 5 or 6, 5 or 7 like that. Okay. It may be the 0 point may also be included. Okay. And not only the 0 point, the negative points or the negative numerals can also be included. Like for the positive statement, you use the 1, 2 or 3 from the agree to the strongly agree responses, or for the negative statement, you use the -1, -2 to -3 for the strongly disagreement responses and 0 point for the neutral responses, or no choice where the respondent want to make no choice. Okay. So, that is also possible. Okay. So, now I think it is clear that what the numerical rating scale means. It simply means that a continuum which is comprised of the numbers and the meaning of which generally indicated at the beginning of the all this question set or all the scale item is generally presented. Okay. So, but this numerical rating scale, as I already told that it is one of the most easy to construct and most easy to implement, but it also have a number of demerits. Okay. What are the demerits? What are the demerits? So, the demerits are the rater has to remember the meaning of the numerical each of the numerical anchor which he is writing in the box provided with the each of the question. Okay. In actuality, it is not an limitation. Okay. It may be okay. So, instead of providing a blank space, you can provide a numerical rating continuum itself against each of the question. Okay. Then this problem may be solved. Okay. Second type of rating scale is the graphic rating scale. Okay. So, graphic rating scale, as I told that numerical rating scale is one of the most easy to construct as implement. So, graphic rating scale on the other way, it is the one of the most popular or used rating scale. Okay. So, here in case of the graphic rating scale, that numerical continuum which I told in case of the numerical rating scale, that is replaced by a descriptive graphs or descriptive cues, okay, which correspond to the each of the items which the scale is comprised of. Okay. Like here, okay, so here in case of providing a blank box, you only have to mention the description of the each of the numericals which are there in your scale. Means here the respondent are provided with the description of the each of the anchor point. Okay. Like here I presented a graphic rating scale, okay, for measuring the performance of the employees. Okay. Like what are the statement or what are the attributes being measured? It is the attendance, it is the behavior towards subordinate, it is the sincerity, okay, and they are measured against a descriptive or the graphic rating scale where the description of this anchor points are like poor, fairly good to the excellent. Okay. So, in other way, so these numerical scale and the graphic scale, they are almost similar aspects except that how they are represented. Okay. So, again here it is another example, okay, of the graphic rating scale. Okay. So, now this graphic rating scale has a number of or apparent advantage over the especially the numerical scale. Okay. So, the first advantage is that it generally as there is rater need not to remember the meaning of the each of the anchor or each of the numerical anchor, because most of the time the test or the scales are comprised of both the positive and negative responses or negative statement. Okay. So, he have to be very careful when he put a point, because the meaning of the numerals they generally change with that whether it is a positive statement, whether it is a negative statement. Okay. So, that confusion problem will not be there if you use the graphic rating scale. Okay. And secondly, as it is more convenient, okay, for using, okay, so it generally take less time for the conducting the whole survey or for administering the whole scale. Okay. So, again these limitation or advantage are not clear cut, okay, means this can be okay, this can be easily overcome, or there it may convert itself to the limitation also, or the limitation can be converted to the advantage also. So, those are not, those are relative in nature. Okay. So, what are the disadvantage of this graphic rating scale? Firstly, for designing a graphic rating scale, the researcher need to be inventive or innovative. Okay. So, because the attractivity of the scale depend on that how much innovative a researcher can become in designing the graphics, which basically, or designing the description again, which basically used for rating of each of the items. Okay. Secondly, mostly in case of the use of the graphic rating, it is suitable for the where the number of continuum or the description of the continuum are small. Okay. So, if or shorter. Okay. So, for the shorter descriptive cues, okay, it is okay, but if the descriptive cues are the much longer in nature, so it is not easy to design an graphic rating scale. Okay, because the scale may feel like congestive, and that is why it may reduce the attractiveness. Okay. And there will be also the more use of the space, and thus increasing the cost of the printing, like that. Okay. So, now coming to the next type of rating scale, that is the percentage rating scale. Okay. So, now this percentage rating scale, in case of the percentage rating scale, the continuum are basically made up of the percentage, or the made up of the specified percentage group. Okay. Like, or it may be percentile, quartile. Okay. One of the most common example that can be used for the percentage rating scale, that is the academic gradation system. Okay. I think as a student, all of you know about the academic gradation system. Like, if a student secure more than the 80% of the marks, he generally get a rating of the A. If it is up to 60 to 80%, then, or 60 to 79%, then it is a rating of B. So, this is an example of the percentage rating scale, where a particular percentage category means from this percentage to this percentage, that is generally included into one particular category of the rating scale. Okay. So, there may be example of this particular scale apart from the academic also, you can find out this type of scale into, especially in the evaluation of the employee performance, okay, or satisfaction level, like that. Okay. So, as I already told, okay, percentage rating scale are common in case of the academician, okay, or academics, but the percentage rating scale has one serious limitation. Okay. What the limitation is? So, in case of the percentage rating scale, the inter-observer biases is more. Okay. Because okay, the category which are each of the anchor point are comprised of, those are not specific, means there is a range, means like I was giving the example of the 80% to the more than 80%, they all come under the A grade. Okay. So, now just you think, okay, so it cannot, so there is a problem of the accuracy of the measurement. Okay. So, how it is? Okay. So, because the person who, or the student who received 90%, he will also categorized into A grade, the person who received 81% or just 80%, he will also be categorized into the A grade. Okay. So, in that way, okay, instead of doing that, if we measure their marks in their originality, so that will give you the more specific measurement of their particular performance. Okay. So, similar way, so percentage rating scale, because of these broader categories, okay, so it generally introduces biases in the measurement, as well as it introduces, or it have a problem with the accuracy of the measurement. Okay. So, now we will go to the next type of rating scale, that is known as the standard scale. Okay. So, in case of the standard scale, the rater is generally provided with a pre-established scale values. Okay. So, it will be more clear, okay, if we talk about, if we give the example or actually type of the different standard scale. Okay. Though I have to mention that the use of the standard scale is not, or use of the standard type of rating scale is not very popular in case of the psychological measurement, especially in case of the research. Okay. So, now I was talking about the example to understand this, what is the standard scale better. Okay. So, there are two popular type of standard scale, one is known as the man-to-man scale and another is known as the portrait matching scale. Okay. So, man-to-man scale was initially developed during the time of the World War, okay, and it replaced the adjective or descriptive cues I was talking about as a part of the numerical anchor or as a part of the graphic rating scale. It was replaced by a particular individual who can best represent that particular adjective of the quality. Okay. So, if you take the example, okay, it will be much more clear. Okay. Like you categorize the maybe person in a particular military unit, okay, or all the officers in a military unit, okay, based on their the quality. Okay. Like if you talk about courage, okay, then it may be Lieutenant Chima. Okay. If you talk about initiative, it may be represented by the Colonel X. Okay. So, now, so what the rater need to do, or so like the so then the rater is generally given these key names after categorizing the character based on the this particular individual in the this particular in case of a military unit. Okay. So, rater is generally given the name. Okay. Now, what the rater need to do, rater only need to fit the respondent of the new person, okay, only against this particular name. So, if you want to if you observe this person, okay, person Y, who he seems like, okay, maybe he is like in terms of the courage, he is the like a Lieutenant Chima. Okay. So, in this way, okay, this particular scale is comprised of. Okay. I think now the standard concept of the standard scale is little bit clear to you. Okay. So, another type of the standard scale is the portrait matching scale. Okay. So, in case of the portrait matching scale, generally a number of the verbal portrait. Okay. So, these number of the verbal portrait are generally represented by a number of statement. Okay. These particular statements or which represent a particular trait are collected, and those are written on a separate card. Okay. And these cards are generally rank ordered by the expert. Okay. After that, a desired number of sketches or portraits are prepared on the basis of the statements, okay, which are rank ordered by the expert, okay, which have the similar rank, they are put into the same category. Okay. Now, after that, the scale value of the each of the portrait, okay, that is determined. And how this scale value is determined, these portraits are generally given to another group of judge, then to rank them, and based on the rank, okay, after you convert to the ransom quantity number, okay, so you get the scale value of the cards. Okay. And then to use this particular portrait, okay, the rater is given all the verbal portraits to read, and then he names that which particular person or which respondent who belong to the which of the portrait. Okay. So, in this way, so there is a chance that a single portrait have several person may be placed in a single portrait, or a single person may be placed into a number of more than one portrait. Okay. So, what are the merits or the advantage of using this particular type of portrait matching scale? It eliminates the element of subjectivity, which is common when you compare it with the man to man scale. Okay. But it is again it also have a demerit also, because this portrait matching also, it is not again the objective or realistic standard for the scale points. Okay. So, there is again the problem with the accuracy, because with this particular type of scale. Okay. So, as I already told that this standard scale are not common in use in case of the psychological research or the behavioral research. Okay. So, next type of rating scale is the scale of cumulated points. So, what scale of cumulated points is? Okay. So, here in a person's total score is the sum of the individual rating of points. Okay. That means positive or negative that is assigned to the all items of the scale. Okay. So, it will be more clear if I provide an example. Okay. So, one of the most common method or one of the most common used technique in case of the scale of cumulated points in research is the use of the checklist or use of the behavioral checklist. Okay. So, where maybe a person's behavior is rated, or a person's behavior is presented by a number of adjective. Okay. Like if I want to talk about the behavior of a particular employee. Okay. So, maybe I can express his behavior in terms of a number of the number of traits. Okay. Like truthful, prompt, proactive, visionary. Okay. So, now in case of the checklist, what you need to do? You need to only take that which particular adjective you agreed with. Okay. Like I may be agreed with that this person is truthful, I may be agreed with that this person is prompt. Okay. I may be agreed with that this person is proactive, maybe I disagreed with that when it comes to the trait visionary. Okay. So, now how this particular checklist is converted to numeral or the numbers. Okay. So, for the each checked item or agreed item or favorable response, one or number 1 is assigned, okay, and if it is a negative or unfavorable response, then it is -1 is assigned to that particular response. Okay. So, you may in case of the behavioral research, okay, so there are wide variety of the checklist you may find, okay, and mostly it is not always required that it will have only the 2-point response. Just the example I gave, okay, like if favorable response you will give the +1, unfavorable response you will give the -1. It may have the multiple response point also depending on the purpose of the research. The next type of the attitude scale is the forced choice scale. Okay. So, what happen in case of the forced choice scale? So, in case of the forced choice scale, okay, so both members of a pair, okay, so generally the forced choice scale is comprised of the pair of traits, okay, and these traits are designed in a certain way. Okay. So, both member of a pair, okay, they will be equally favorable and there will be equally unfavorable. Okay. So, that is listed. Okay. So, that means for measuring each of the trait, okay, or for measuring each of the statement, okay, so there used to be the 2 pair of item. Okay. So, now so one pair that contain the favorable item, another pair that contain the unfavorable item. Okay. So, also and the each member of the item is generally called the elements. Okay. So, it is not always required that you use the 2 objective pair. Okay. You can add another element which may be neutral. Okay. So, now it is clear that in case of the forced choice scale or the forced choice rating scale, so each of the statement or each of the trait, okay, so that is generally measured by a number of adjective pair. Okay. So, generally and most usually it comprised of the 2 pair of the item. Okay. So, now each pair contain 2 element. Okay. So, sometimes apart from this 4 item, a neutral item is also included, okay, with the scale. Okay. And the elements within an item that are generally similar. Okay. But one is may be valid and another is generally invalid. Okay. So, that means one is of the high performance value, another is the low performance value. Okay. So, this is one of the comparative method, okay, of the comparative method of the this rating scale or using a rating scale or developing a rating scale, and mostly used in case of the performance appraisal. Okay. So, it will be more clear. So, this particular forced choice scale, okay, that was first the most important contribution in developing this particular type of rating scale by the J.P. Guilford. Okay. And so, if you take the example of the forced choice block, okay, like you may be the trait, the regularity on the job is being measured. Okay. So, now as I told that it comprised of the 2 element, it comprised of the 2 item, okay, 2 pair of the item. So, these 2 are the pair. Okay. So, among them one is the valid, another is the invalid. So, each member of this particular item they are element. Okay. But here in case of this particular example, I also included one neutral item, okay, which have nothing to do with this particular or which is the neutral in case of this particular trait being measured. Okay. So, now if you take the first item, okay, it is comprised of the 2 element, that is always regular. So, we are measuring the regularity on the job. Okay. So, we are measuring that is always regular and inform in advance for the delay. Okay. So, now the respondent need to respond with both these 2 valid and invalid item, and also they need to respond with both the pair. Okay. So, now one pair is the favorable, another pair is the unfavorable. Okay. So, now why this type of complex rating scale to be used? Okay. So, you remember when I talk about the objective test and scale, I told that in case of the rating scale, one serious problem is the item desire, one of the serious problem is the response set bias. Okay. So, there is a chance that without actually reading or judging each of the statement which are being used to measure a construct, okay, he simply put his response in the similar way, like for or he put the rating as a neutral, okay, or maybe without reading that he put the rating as a positive, okay, or if the item is a socially if there is response set bias is operating. Okay. So, now if you use the forced choice block, then okay, so to get or to give a valid response, he have to give the positive response with the favorable block and positive with the valid item, okay, negative with the invalid item. Again For the unfavorable block, okay, so maybe again he have to give the negative response, okay, like here the continuum is the most and least, okay, for the valid item or for the favorable item he have to put the most, for the unfavorable item he have to put the least, okay. So that is why, so it somehow, okay, manage the response set bias in the which is more common in case of the rating scale, okay. But for designing the force choice scale, okay, it is not a easy job, okay. So because, so and how these particular responses are being rated, okay, the favorable quality generally earns the plus credit, unfavorable quality may earn the reverse, okay. Like if you add +1 for the each favorable quality, so -1 will be for the each unfavorable quality, okay. And this particular method has one of the important advantage is that here in case of this method, okay, it is highly objective. Why it is highly objective? Generally the rater is unaware of the what high or low score is assigned to the each of the respondent being rated, okay. Also this scale has the ability to somehow overcome the response set biases, okay. But you have to remember, so preparation of a set of phrases, okay, for use in a force or for use in a force choice type of rating scale required a lot of a good amount of the analytical skill, okay. So the development of this type of scale is not easy, okay. So now coming to the conclusion, as I already told that one of the most used type of scale in case of the social research is the rating scale, but and it is easy to construct some and it is easy to administer also or use also, but you have to keep into the mind that any type of rating scale, okay, so except the maybe the force choice scale, okay, so especially the numerical scale, graphic scale, which are mostly used in case of the scientific research or the social scientific research, okay, so they have the important or they have the serious problem of the response set bias as well as the social or item desirability or the tendency to agree with the socially desirable item, okay. So that is always there in case of the rating scale, okay. So you have to use a number of methods or number of techniques which are available, okay, like use of the positive negative item or use of the force choice type of rating scale to disturb or to overcome this response set bias. So with this we will conclude today's lecture. So as always you can always go through these particular books for more in-depth knowledge on this particular topic of discussion, and with this we will conclude today's lecture. Thank you.